I want to jump right into the news about COVID. Michael Osterholm, the director of the Center for Infectious Diseases Research and Policy, appeared on Meet the Press on Sunday with Chuck Todd to discuss the recent surge of COVID-19 cases. In a separate interview, Osterholm stated, quote, he believes that in some ways we're almost in a new pandemic. Let's take a listen to him on Meet the Press.
Dr. Osterholm, the last time you were on, the metaphor was we were in the eye of the hurricane, that basically things were felt rosy, and you said, hey, this is going to get worse. Well, do you believe we're in the midst of this fourth surge, and are we still sitting on a Category 5, or do you think this is a manageable fourth surge?
Well, thank you, Chuck, for having me again. And first of all, let me say that at this time, we really are in a Category 5 hurricane status with regard to the rest of the world. At this point, we will see in the next 2 weeks the highest number of cases reported globally since the beginning of the pandemic. In terms of the United States, we're just at the beginning of this surge. We haven't even really begun to see it yet. We have had, over the course of the past year, surges of cases that occur in the upper Midwest and the Northeast, and they subside. Then we see big increases in cases through all the southern Sun Belt states. Then it subsides in the Northeast and Midwest come back again. And we're now, I think, in that cycle where the upper Midwest is just now beginning to start this fourth surge. And I think it was a wake-up call to everyone yesterday when Michigan reported out 8,400 new cases, and we're now seeing increasing number of severe illnesses, ICU hospitalizations, in individuals who are between 30 and 50 years of age who have not been vaccinated.
Wow. Osterholm also said, quote, the only good news is that the current vaccines are effective against this particular variant, B117, referring to a British variant of COVID-19. In addition to this variant being known to be more contagious and more deadly, Osterholm said that it is more likely to affect children, an age group that throughout the pandemic had been largely unaffected by COVID-19. He said, quote, I believe that in some ways we're almost in a new pandemic. Meanwhile, in Texas, good old Texas, the Texas Rangers became the first sports team in the United States to reopen their stadium at 100% capacity. That is 100% capacity since the pandemic began. And so now Rebecca and James, we're dealing with a new strain of COVID-19, uptick in the spread, even though we have a lot of people being vaccinated and the vaccines are highly effective, which is great news. There's still millions upon millions of people who have not gotten the vaccine, and they're still getting sick. And there's some people who got the vaccine and they went out before it was able to kick in 2 weeks later. And so this is like we're almost out, but I don't know, man. Like these states, it's not. I don't just blame the people. We have to take individual responsibility. It's also the fact that, you know, the governor of Texas was actually at that game. I believe he threw out the first pitch. And it's just it's a level of absurdity that's going on. And we're going to see this spread even more quickly because of that level of stupidity. So that's where we are.
The mayor actually pulled out. He was not satisfied, or he was displeased with the MLB for deciding to withdraw from Atlanta.
That's right.
So he decided that he did not throw out the first pitch. But
thank you for But he was about to be there.
Yeah, he was about to be there. But that's crazy, y'all. I don't think people realize and understand just because you got the vaccination doesn't put you out the woods. Don't get it twisted, because you can still get it. You can still spread it. This vaccination is just like, I'll put it like this. It's just like the flu shot. How y'all ass can still get the flu, you can still get goddamn COVID.
And that's the thing, especially in that period between, like, it takes 2 weeks for the vaccine to become highly effective. And a lot of people get the shot and they go right out. Right. And that's the thing, like, you literally need to give the vaccine 2 weeks. And this is why, and there's not a whole lot of cases of this, which is the good news, right? There's not a whole lot of cases of people who got the vaccine and are catching COVID-19. There's a small group of people who got the vaccine, and because they did not wait, they got COVID-19. But even more importantly than that, it's all the people who are not getting the vaccine. There's some 7 million people who are estimated to not be able to get, or not going to get, the vaccine because they're not even aware that the vaccines are free to them. Right. So there's a level of misinformation, disinformation, and a level of just sheer stupidity that's still coming. I mean, look at that stadium yesterday. you can guarantee that not every person in that stadium was vaccinated. And so even the ones that are vaccinated, while they may be protected, there are going to be thousands of people who are potentially affected by COVID-19 because of this level of stupidity. So yeah, get the vaccine. Absolutely. It's absolutely effective. But if you don't give it the time that it takes for it to become effective in your body, you're right, James. I mean, it's you're not above, you could still get it. One of the good news here, one last good news. I'm sorry, Rebecca. The good news is that it is not, the data that's coming out is showing that if you have the vaccine and it has taken root in your system, that you, so far, the data is showing that you are not likely to spread it. So that's the good side of this. The scary side is that because it has gone and is spread uncontrollably in this country, these variants are really questionable. Like, we really have to take every variant by variant to see how effective the vaccine is for that variant. And so far, so good, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be the case. So there's, when I'm not saying people should cancel their summer plans if they're fully vaccinated, what I'm saying is get fully vaccinated and give it time to actually kick in the way it's supposed to. Rebecca, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. But for me, it's the solidarity between the Texas governor and then you have, it's to me, they're promoting a lot of, we have our pandemic, which is the virus. And then we have our pandemic, which is the voter suppression and the systemic racism and the racism and all of that that's going on. And simply because they decided that they, with the whole voter suppression thing, people pull out. Then you got Texas going be saying that voter suppression is right in a sense. So we will not partner with. We're not going to partner with you guys, the MLB, and we're going to. And then our Texas state, we already exposed them to coronavirus. It's so much of this mess going on. And there are layers to this, and we have us. People of color, because I am taking it there. I'm taking it to people of color, Black folks specifically. We had the pandemic like 3 times over in ourselves, like the misinformation in the communities. A lot of these communities in the hoods or these areas that lack do not have like the information that you were saying, Ben. You were saying that there is they're not telling them that the access to the vaccine is free. Mm-hmm. They're not letting them know because a lot of them don't have internet access in these areas. And so then they're not going into these communities and letting them know, hey, you can get it at your local such and such or however, or, you can sign up, you can give these people a call and those things. And so there's so much going on. They don't want people to get the vaccine because they want to make their point. And they also, it's a lot going on. And I hate to see it.
That's the part. There are people who have a political agenda for whatever reason to not get the vaccine for themselves and to ensure that others don't get the vaccine. The data is out. It is highly effective. There are tens of millions of people who've gotten it already with minimal side effects. Most people get a sore arm. Folks, go get vaccinated. And Rebecca, to your point, I see commercials all the time about coming in to get your vaccine, but you got to read the fine print at the bottom to realize that it's free. And to be honest with you, there's so many people who are locked in just trying to survive day to day. They have not tuned into the news. They haven't tuned into these shows, to our podcast, to realize that they're free. And so estimate 7 million people in this country don't plan to get the vaccine because they did not know it was free. That's a lot of disinformation and misinformation. And that's one of the things that we have to push back on. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He announced a COVID-19 vaccine distribution partnership with Publix grocery stores a few weeks ago, weeks after the company gave him $100,000 to his political action committee, according to CBS 60 Minutes reported this past Sunday, citing campaign finance records, which is obviously a huge scandal. Publix said in a statement to CBS, the irresponsible suggestion that there is a connection between campaign contributions made to DeSantis and, quote, our willingness to join other pharmacies supporting Florida's vaccine rollout is absolutely false and offensive. Let's take a quick look at this clip of the reporting from 60 Minutes.
So why did the governor choose Publix? Campaign finance reports obtained by 60 Minutes show that weeks before the governor's announcement, Publix donated $100,000 to his political action committee, Friends of Ron DeSantis. Julie Jenkins Fancelli, heiress to the Publix fortune, has given $55,000 to the governor's PAC in the past, and in November, Fancelli's brother-in-law, Hoyt R. Barnett, a retired Publix executive, donated $25,000.
So this ties directly into what we were talking about earlier about how these companies are complicit with all of the madness that we see going on. Now, that said, I'm not ready to boycott Publix because it's the only grocery store within like a 10-mile radius of me. But we've seen this from Publix time and time again, right? They have funded Republicans, and it's not just about them donating to Republicans, because I get these corporations need to have money on both sides of the aisle. They are funding some of the worst of these public officials. And in this instance, there seems to be a direct connection. Now, here's the thing. Of course, Publix was going to be a part of the rollout of the vaccines, right? But to have Governor DeSantis specifically choose and give priority to Publix, you can't I'm sorry, Rebecca and James, you just can't separate that from the fact that he just got $100,000 from Publix, not to mention money from the heiress of Publix and one of her relatives. So all of this is tied in together, and we see it time and time and again how money not only impacts our politics, but because our politicians are so hungry for this money, they allow it to impact something as critical as the rollout of COVID-19, of the vaccine for COVID-19, rather.
Money runs everything. That's just really what it is. Like you got some paper and it doesn't matter. We can look at the values of these companies, and sometimes it sucks because we can't boycott or we can't protest or whatever these companies are, because like you said, sometimes we're living in areas where this is the only grocery store that's up the damn street, or around the corner from us, or the place that we can only get our pharmaceuticals. And it sucks, right? But this is what has always been. And the fact that we can highlight it is great, because right now we can't really stop them because they probably will do this again, and probably are still accepting money from these folks. But still, it's just tough. It's tough because we can't really, not that we can't do nothing, but they're very powerful people. They're very, very powerful companies that do devious things when it comes to our vaccines, when it comes to
Here's one other part of this. The Julia Jenkins Fancelli, who was in that clip, I believe, she's the Publix heiress, and she not only donated to Ron DeSantis, she also contributed to the insurrection, the terrorist attack on January 6th, right? So when I say that these people are not just, it's one thing to play both sides of the fence and say, I'm going to donate to Republicans and Democrats. I get corporations. No, these people have a strong political ideology all the way to the point where they funded Publix is tied to the funding of the January 6th terrorist attack.